All right, we're here with, what's her face? Andrea Chabot. Sorry, there's just a bit of tension here because she just told me she did an interview for, what is Barbershop Talk? Is
Yes.
that?
Yeah.
And she's episode 1 apparently, so I feel like these guys just started the channel or whatever it is so they could have her on because they saw me interview her, like, oh, we'll get her on, aren't they? And now she just looked at her phone and she's like, oh, we look at that, it's so many likes. And, oh yeah, oh, she's looking at her watch and she's like, oh, it has more than your video. I'm like, okay, all right. And now we have to sit down and do this thing. But we're here today with Andrea Chabot again because we talked for an hour and a half before, and there's YouTube comments saying, yes, but I want to know more about her party platform, about the policies, like the nitty gritty. So that's it. I'm going to let you take it away. I mean, if you'll even deign to talk to Dean, like a dean to talk to someone who doesn't have a barber shop.
I'm sure you inspired him, Josh.
What did they even ask about? Did they ask about policy, or was it was as fun as my chat with you?
It was it was more focused on the issues that are facing Canadians right now because there's a long list of issues. Arguably the top issue that everyone wants to talk about is Trump and the tariffs, right? So threatening our sovereignty.
Excellent. And by the way, if I get up to look at the phone, it's just I'm panicking. Like, is it actually filming? Because your son was looking at it, but then he went away. So it is recording. Okay. So Trump and the tariffs, that's what people want to know about, you're saying?
Well, that's top of mind.
That's the big thing. And that seems to be like a big issue that's affecting the election. Like apparently the Conservatives are ahead, and then, tariffs, and now we want the Liberals again for some reason.
Yeah. So where we're at, we're 2 days away from the polls. So Saturday, so it's like a day and a half even.
Big election day. Yeah,
not much left in the campaign, but it's clear at this point that Mark Carney is going to win.
Is it?
It's pretty. Yeah, there's the stats, like it's like statistically there's a 1% chance that Poilievre will be the prime minister. So then we have to look at our Ottawa Centre, right, and what that means for us. We haven't had a Conservative in for I think it's 47 or 48 years. Like, we're socially progressive here, and that's okay. Let's keep it that way.
Capital of Canada, kind of like Washington, D.C. It's a very Democrat area.
Yeah. So really it's between Yasser and Joel Hardin. And
the Liberal and the NDP.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Liberal and the NDP. So because this is a safe Liberal riding, my pitch to voters is, let's actually vote for something different and a voice in the House that has experience delivering on some of these promises. Because I'll be honest with you, Josh, the reason I'm running is because it's hard to deliver. Like, it doesn't matter which government gets in. Everybody blames the public servants for lazy, bloated, right? And I think regardless of which government we end up with, they're going to want to cut the public service down. There's a lot of public pressure to do that.
Really? You think even the Liberals would cut?
Yeah.
Really?
I'm pretty sure.
All right. And so what's your point about that?
So here's my point.
Okay.
Yeah, my point is that the politicians actually need a bit of a reality check of what it's like to deliver in the digital age. And I think that's the specific sticking point. So there's a lot that they could do to modernize the public service to make it easier for them to deliver on these promises.
So that whatever the party that wins is supposed to do, you could help make them actually more efficient and work better so that they could deliver on those promises.
Yeah.
So you're like the oil in the engine, kind of like, I don't know if that's, I don't know anything about cars.
Yeah, me neither, actually.
We're going to get comments. What are you talking about? Grease? That's not what grease does.
Well, if we talk about, we did talk about the legislative rubber hitting the administrative road. And so it's, right now there's some friction. So maybe a little grease. Grease the wheels up so they turn a lot smoother.
Or maybe just like updated software for, your computer's getting too slow. Debugging.
Yeah, exactly.
Debug the gov.
Yeah, you got it.
.ca. Okay, so that's good.
Yeah.
Did you make notes of or mental notes of what the comments were on YouTube? They're like, I want to know this thing.
Yeah, so I talk a lot about digital public infrastructure.
Right.
As being an important thing to focus on. So a lot of people don't know, but the concept of having a digital ID has been in planning for way too long, and it's because we use funds to the government uses the budget process and and that's their prioritization exercise, right? What we fund is what we're prioritizing, and we have not been funding or prioritizing digital public infrastructure.
Digital public infrastructure.
Yeah, so let me talk about that a little bit. So digital ID is one type, and so we have a lot of different IDs at different levels of government right now. So the only ones that are really in the control of the federal government are your social insurance number and your passport.
Okay.
Right. But what that means is that you have to spend 5 minutes or longer on the phone with the CRA or with Service Canada, just proving you are who you say you are, or to get access to your online portal. So what a digital ID would do would make that process easier.
How? Like by scanning your eyeball, or do you have like a microchip
No, it's
in
not
your
bio.
neck?
It's not bio
it's not
ID.
Minority Report. Okay.
No. So typically it uses blockchain technology. So a lot of other countries have used blockchain technology, and it's embedded in your phone. And so there would be a mechanism to authenticate you when you interact with the government.
So you don't know specifically what that would mean.
I'm not. Yeah.
Okay.
But
but something easier than a piece of paper.
And something easier than 5 to 7 questions that you have to scramble then to find your tax paperwork, or your you're trying to log
yeah,
into
like
your
every time I
bank
call the
account.
bank, they're like, well, what's your birthday, and how much money do you have in your bank account?
Well, that's the thing. Even the bank could use it to authenticate you, right? So that's why I say that there's economic benefits, is because all these levels of government.
Oh, I see. So, well, I mean, I would think something like that would be, I mean, right now to sign in things on my phone, it's like it's using Face ID, so like I don't have to know the password. So, for example, guy on the government on the phone can say, okay, we're texting something to your phone, go to that, show your face, we're done. That would probably make it harder to fraud than, I know your birthday.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's one type of digital public infrastructure.
Yeah.
Another type is data sharing platforms.
Okay.
So Estonia in particular has this really neat model where they have number one, data sovereignty legislation, which is in our platform. And so that essentially what it means is that you own your data, and you're the only one that gets to decide who gets access to that. Now, in our current state, the Facebooks and the Googles of the world are using our data to make profit. Like, we all know this and we accept it, right? We're like, okay, it's a fact. Anyways, another piece in our platform is to try and maybe recoup some of that, but that's kind of a different story. Let's talk about data sharing and data sovereignty in particular. So in the Estonia, in the country of Estonia, they also have a secure digital platform to exchange that for that data to travel. All right, so everybody just sort of assumes that their data is secure right now, and it mostly is, but when it has to travel, arguably these days, it's not as secure as it could be.
Oh no.
Well, let me give you an example.
Yeah.
All right, so you have to apply for a mortgage at a bank. Okay. What's the first thing they ask for you for, or any kind of loan?
I don't know, your credit check, or
yeah, that's sure.
your ID, your
from the government, your notice of assessment.
Yeah, I gotta do my taxes. Okay,
yeah, no, sorry. Everybody's got to do your taxes. PSA, don't forget, April 30th.
Oh man,
it's the deadline.
I may or may not be 2 years behind. Anyways.
Okay. So you have to get a notice of assessment from the government. All right. So you either call, right, and they'll fax it to you if you need it real quick. They still use faxes. Faxing is insane. Okay. Or if you're smart, you have an online portal, and so you access your CRA My Account, and you log in. You grab your notice of assessment. All right, so you can get a digital copy or a digital version. Maybe you're printing it, but post-COVID, everybody is digital now, like virtual, remote. And so chances are pretty good you're grabbing that, you're popping it onto your desktop, and then you're emailing it.
Your notice of assessment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that secure?
I
mean, that's your whole financial,
right,
your
so
income for the year.
Sort of, if they've hacked into your email, or I guess, things travel. They always say, like, use a VPN if you're using Wi-Fi in an airport or something, because I don't know how people access all your stuff, but apparently there's a thing.
Yeah.
So you're saying there's a more secure way, just like than email? or like a
Yeah.
secret tunnel.
So in Estonia, they again use blockchain as as the basis, and they treat it like it's always potentially under attack. So we've got a lot of smart people in Canada already when it comes to digital projects, and we have an opportunity. I don't know if you've heard, but the U.S. is a bit of a scary place to be right now, in my opinion. And I think there's a lot of smart people that might want to leave and come join us in Canada. So part of our platform is to introduce a super visa for those people to come and build that digital public infrastructure here, help to keep it secure. So we could regain our digital sovereignty as well, right?
Do you think you could lure some Estonians as well? Those clever people that built their thing?
Yeah, well, they make all of their all of their I call them building blocks available for folks to use.
Oh, it's like open source? Is that
Exactly.
what they call it?
Yeah, open source. So the idea would be that the federal government would take the lead on some of these, develop a standard that is, that for the whole country to use these things. And then they could be reused at the provincial level and at the municipal level to decrease the cost of administering certain things.
I mean, that sort of makes sense. Especially, well, like I said, more provincial, but healthcare. Like, my doctor was always like, "Oh, when's the last time you've been vaccinated?" It's like, I don't know. Like back before COVID, when it was
healthcare records,
measles or whatever it was. I don't remember. But you feel like there should be a record if I go to a different doctor, or whatever. Like, here's a list of everything I've done, so it's not. They have a file folder here and all of that. So
or moving provinces. You literally have to go to your doctor and ask for your file. If they have one, it's usually a physical one.
And that's what I have to do with the dentist every time. They got to mail the x-rays or whatever.
So basically, a lot of your personal information is going all over the place. And I think it should be primarily in your hands, that you should have access to it. That's actually part of our legislation right now. But you know what isn't part of our legislation is mechanisms to make it easy for you to authorize who has it and share it. So let me give you an example.
Please.
All right. So you have to apply for benefits, EI, or maybe you have to do your taxes. Anyways, there's a lot of these benefits that a lot of people notice. Like, actually, the government has all the information they need to be able to do that.
Well,
right?
the joke is, like, for taxes, basically it's you trying to guess how much you owe. And they're like, well, we know. And you're like, well, tell me. No, I'm not going to tell you. You have to guess. And you say, is it this much? No, you're going to jail. It's like, what? Like, it's this weird game.
That's the meme, So in the UK, they do. They have mechanisms where they kind of give you a bit of an estimate of what they think your tax situation is, and you just click accept.
I would like that.
Yeah. So what we really need to do that is this digital public infrastructure. So data sharing mechanisms, so that the government can. The other thing is, so the government can between departments share your data more easily. You know how much time and energy we waste right now? Okay, it's waste because it's not adding value. Between departments right now. It can take up to a year. So let's say one department says, okay, we're launching this new program, but we need access to this data that the other department has in order to do things.
Yeah.
It takes about a year and a lot of effort to be able to do that under the current policy and legal structures. So we need to clean that up. Dominic Carty, our leader, said that even during COVID, he actually had to get a law changed first before they could even do that.
What? Shut things down for COVID?
No. Share a certain piece of information between government departments. It's a common myth. Everybody, thinks that, oh, well, if I shared it with this department, this other department automatically has access to it, and that's not the case.
Well, it sounds like, I don't know why, it reminds me of like when 9/11 happened, they realized, part of it was that, CIA is not talking to FBI, not talking to police, like they were all siloed and they each knew things, and if they were just talking, they would have been like, hey, there's about to be a terrorist attack.
That's right,
So,
exactly, yeah.
And now I'm afraid to use words like that I just used, or the name for the disease. I'm like, YouTube's going to demonetize me.
Oh, no!
Speaking of government watching. Is there a fear, like some people might say, wait, everything's digitized, like that gives the government more control. Like, I think of like during the pandemic,
Right.
when the government, or like to shut down the truckers thing, they're like, you know what, we're just going to shut down your bank accounts and take all your money. And everybody's like, what? Like, you know, what, I don't know, some people
Right.
thought that was a bit scary that they could just do that on a whim.
Yeah.
And then, and the government's fighting now for, we want to have a digital currency. So it's not even cash you have, like everything's digital, and they can just take away your money at any time. Like, is that related to this digital ID?
So, I mean, that has to do with our constitutional rights, right? So you're talking about actually taking away people's freedom. And so specifically with the trucker convoy, that was the use of the notwithstanding clause. So that was a particular mechanism that was used to that essentially removes, you know, people's freedoms, and that's been debated in the courts, and I think it was determined it was a bit excessive. In the Canadian Future Party, we absolutely believe in protecting people's personal freedoms. So, you know, whether that's a religious belief or a lifestyle, like as long as you're not hurting anyone, get the government out of that business. Like it's has nothing to do with us. So we believe fiercely in protecting people's personal freedoms. So that's what you're actually talking about.
Yeah, and I guess the idea of digitizing things, it just, to me, it has that emotional connotation of like, oh, now they've got everything. I keep thinking of like Tom Cruise in Minority Report, where like, you know, his eyeball scan is everything. Everything knows who he is, like, and so he has to get a new eyeball to hide from the. I don't know. Nothing has
Well,
to do
that's
with
why it needs to be combined with that data sovereignty legislation.
Yeah, and right? I guess in the end, you know, even if there's legislation, you know, at some point a government can say, well, we're notwithstanding that either. But I mean, in the end, what are you going to do? Like,
yeah,
like.
No, it's a fair question, and I think that's probably why none of the previous governments have prioritized it. Is there's this underlying fear of what could potentially happen,
and maybe gradually there'll be less fear just because younger people are raised with their phones. They're used to.
Well, arguably, Facebook has more data on you than the Facebook and Google know more about you and your life than the government does.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, I mean, the other day I was saying,
why not use it for good?
Yeah.
You know,
I was
to actually make it your life easier and to make it cost less for us to administer.
That's
right?
true. Somebody has all the information. It might as well be somebody, like making taxes the tax dollars spending more efficient, or making your life, because you can save a year on things, and maybe even get your healthcare faster or your benefits faster, or not have to spend weeks on your taxes or whatever. Right. Yeah, efficiency is good.
Make it easier to start a business too.
Oh, that'd be good.
Yeah.
I would like to start, you know, something like a barbershop interview business or something. Maybe I can use your couch here to just do my interviews. It's leather couch interview. Is this real leather?
No. Oh, gosh, no.
All right, so it'll be like pleather couch interviews.
Yeah.
I love it. That'll be my new thing.
I love it.
I'll just be knocking on your door every day. I'm here for my interview. And you're like, oh, God.
I'm sure my kids won't mind.
No, they'll love it. Uncle Josh is here. Yeah. All right. So that's good. So your I mean, it sounds like in general your party is about, making things more efficient for the workings of government. I don't know if on YouTube or other people have been asking me, but what are your policies regarding, the standard government things, like maybe foreign policies or I don't know,
so I'll give you the mainstays right now is there's a lot of folks in our party that with some pretty serious and deep military experience, and I don't know.
That sounds like a threat.
No, I'm just saying.
I'm just saying, people. They got some
people
serious...
in the party tend to inform the policy. Yeah. Right, and so like in terms of dealing with Trump, we know we have to assert our own sovereignty. We have to be capable of defending ourselves to be able to do that. And so right now we have active service members, and I think it's about 65,000. So we'd like to see that get bumped up to 100,000. So
that we can protect ourselves from the Americans?
Yeah, or the Russians, potentially, right?
All right,
yeah, who knows?
We only have 65,000 soldiers.
Yeah.
That's very small.
It is. It's very small.
But I guess a lot of it is relying on the fact that the U.S. will protect us if anything serious happens. And also we have oceans and stuff. It's not like we're...
Well, yeah, we have a lot of borders to protect. Yeah,
we have to protect them. But it's harder for people to get to us, to invade us.
Ah, gotcha.
Yeah. But hopefully, I mean, who's coming? I don't know. Yeah. But at some point, yeah, you want to be sort of self-sufficient or whatever.
Yeah. And then we have this other neat idea. We call it the Canada Corps. And it's a little bit like, you know how we've got like the search and rescue, like there's a bunch of emergency sort of volunteers. So what we would do is recruit to have this base of trained, like they would be trained in a couple of different skills. So they'd be skilled in or trained in trade skills. So like building, which we need pretty badly. And then they would be kind of on reserve in the event of an emergency. So often the military gets called in for floods or natural disasters. And so they would become sort of another reserve. So I think this is a neat idea.
And we don't have that?
Well, we have a reserve, but we're talking bigger numbers, and we're talking about specifically training them. Like the draw to joining this would be you get to come out with a trade.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So train, like, did you say building? Like emergency building houses or something, or what?
Well, no, I mean no, like that would be the training that they would get as part of this program. So like that would be the commitment on the government side, is that you're gonna be trained in a trade or
okay,
have
so
those
you'd be
skills.
a volunteer on this team, but you would learn a free skill.
Yeah, and so you'd be working in that trade as part of the Canada Corps, but in the event of an emergency, you would also be trained to deal with natural disasters or emergencies, or
would your trade be related to what you were going to do in the emergency? Like you'd be an electrician, so you'd be able to go in, like, so you could help with electricity stuff, like that would be your trade, but also in an emergency you can come in and like restore electricity to an area,
so
or just separate
entirely? I don't know, like honestly I'm not an expert in emergency management, but in a flood, a lot, you don't need a trade skill, like you don't to fill bags, to stop the water from coming, right?
Okay, so maybe we give you free trade, and in return you volunteer, kind of like the army. Well, it's not like the army. Well, the army pays for your schooling, in return you're in the army, I guess.
Yeah, it's kind of like that, but a different version, and mostly for young folks that are
good. Put those young folks to work.
Yeah.
Stop sitting on your couch doing TikToks. That's for the old people. Your pleather couches.
There you go.
All right, so that's good. So we got a reserve of volunteers. Yep. We're making your digital ID. We're making it easy to do your taxes and all of that. So that's good.
Yeah.
And are those and then we got military people in and so that aspect of the party means that, so they're aware of military issues, and they're like, yeah, we want more soldiers and stuff. We realize there's a deficit in that.
And there's procurement issues. So. Like number one, a lot of the equipment we buy, so you've heard about the F-35 jets, are from the U.S. Right? And so because the U.S. isn't a reliable trading partner anymore, we need to start looking at other countries, first of all.
Who do you think would be more reliable than
buy
the
our
US?
equipment from? Well, Europe, Germany. Maybe.
You start relying on Germany, that's...
Well, anyways, again, I'm not an expert.
I'm not mocking it.
Who's making this equipment?
I'm not as anti-American as everybody seems to be. I'm surprised that all parties are like, oh, we're going to fight back against the Americans. Like, nobody says, well, you know what? If America wanted to destroy us, they easily could. So why don't we be like, all right, let's, they are our greatest allies. Let's work together, figure out what they want, and sort of, I don't know why everybody feels like it's elbows up, we've got to fight them. It's like, is that even realistic? Is that just theatrical? I don't know. I'm just spitballing myself. I was surprised even the conservatives were like, yeah, we're going to fight Trump. I'm like, you are? Like,
well, when you basically have the most powerful person in the world that is outright saying, we want you to become our little bitch, right? Like, you'll be the 51st state, over and over and over again. And he's not joking about it, and he's already talking about a third term. And buying Greenland. Like, these are not jokes. We have to take these seriously. I know you like to joke, Josh. This is serious, and we need to take it seriously, and that's why the politicians are taking it seriously.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, could they crush us? Absolutely. That's why we need to start getting ready now.
All right.
Yep.
And do people ever ask, well, what is your party? You're sort of left wing, you're right wing? Like, do they try to get a gauge on that?
That's my favorite question.
Okay.
Yeah. And I don't know, folks like Steve Boots will say...
Who's Steve Boots?
Steve Boots is this.
He sounds like a little children's story character.
He's a
cat with
political.
boots or something.
He's a mostly left-wing political commentator online that I've been watching.
A Canadian?
A Canadian.
Wow,
yeah.
I only listen to American politics. I should tune into Steve Boots.
You definitely need to.
Does he have a barbershop? Is that where he does his interviews?
No, actually.
Somebody else. Okay. Does them in shoe stores. You have to wear boots and be interviewed by Steve Boots.
Anyway, a lot of people are like, centrism doesn't exist. You're not real. If you're a centrist, it's either left wing or right wing. And so my rebuttal to that is that you can. And in fact, I think we must be a little more centrist today. Because when it comes to certain policies, and this is especially true in the digital age when we talk about delivering on them, all a policy really is a specific outcome that we want, right? So we're like, we have this idea, I'll give you an idea. What's a good one? Like we want to end homelessness. Okay. So that's the outcome we want. We want no one who is without a home in Canada. How do we solve that? Okay. So you're starting with the problem. So, the typical sort of left wing will say big government will come in. Like, we need government to step in to solve these problems. And the, sort of right wing will say, no, we need to let government get out of the way and put more money in people's pockets so that, then these homeless people will be fine. And they'll actually be able to get a job and they won't have to pay taxes. But I would argue that our society has become more complex now, and the digital age has given us sort of more ways to solve problems and better data to use to measure whether we're actually solving those problems or not, like feedback loops. And so to me, centrism is about finding the balance between the outcome, like basically how do we get to the outcome we want with the least cost and the least intervention possible.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's kind of what I'm proposing. So so usually it's like left. Are you big government or small government? We're the least government that is required in order to accomplish a specific outcome. It's kind of the way I frame it.
Okay, and then I guess the problems you'd be attacking would be things that everybody agrees on. Like, yes, homelessness is bad.
Yeah.
Theoretically, most people I would think would say crime is bad.
Yep.
Pollution is bad.
Absolutely.
Whatever. And then how do we solve those problems in the most efficient way?
Yeah, and so this pollution is a good one. So we care about the environment. We believe in science, like as the foundation of our party, or evidence-based decision making. So we acknowledge there's a climate crisis. All right. At the same time, we're also, not oblivious to the fact that our economy is heavily reliant on fossil fuels currently, right? So, if we were to just push like that, one agenda that like, in order to clean up the environment, we're going to stop drilling immediately, and then our economy would tank, right? So, again, it's about balance of how do we protect our environment and build a plan, a long-term plan to get off of, stop relying economically on fossil fuels as a major source of our GDP, right, and our economic growth. And so that's why our party is pitching nuclear power as an option. The technology has gotten so good that it's safe now. The main barriers are the high cost of entry. And so that's where the federal government could step in and help with that in terms of loans and funding, because even our biggest corps pale in comparison to corps in the U.S. Corporations. Yeah, it's a short corpse. Yeah. I know it sounds awful actually now that I say
bodies.
It like
Corpse. Because I was talking about that issue this week with somebody about it's extolling the virtues of ChatGPT or whatever, and then they're like, I feel guilty using it though because it uses so much energy, it's so bad for the environment. And even the founder of OpenAI or somebody was saying this week, like, just people being polite and saying thank you and please to the machine is using so much energy, but he said I still encourage it because it's teaching the machine to be nice or whatever. So I'm torn, but this stuff is so useful. If we did have nuclear energy or whatever, and that's controversial too. Like people like the Greens or something. Oh, nuclear is bad, but I haven't heard a viable alternative.
Well, again, if you like, forget the emotion behind it. So a lot of our, a lot of the like, anyways, in the current state of politics, they, really, if the people are a little fearful about it, then they won't even touch it. Right? And so there's this fear attached to nuclear energy.
Stigma. It's like, Chernobyl or something.
Right. But the evidence, so if you look at the hard data, the evidence, what it says, it's reliable, it's now safe, there's ways to mitigate any risks, and it makes sense for us to do.
Okay. So, like, in terms of, it's like evidence. For example, the Democrats were like, yeah, we got to stop, and I keep using U.S. because that's the podcast I listen to, whatever. But, let's stop drilling. And also in Canada, they say, yeah, like, we're shutting down the pipelines or whatever. But then Biden or somebody would say, well, we're going to buy our oil from, I don't know, Brazil or Iran or something. So you're still using the same amount of oil. So not drilling yourself is sort of like, look how green we are, but you're still using the same amount. And it's from a country that doesn't have the same regulation. So it's even dirtier. And maybe you're funding bad things from that country and stuff. So would you, like, in terms of being logical, would you say, no, like, we need this energy, there is no alternative to fossil fuels, or it's that's what bothers me. Like, if you're actually going to do something for a reason, okay, you want to protect the environment, I'm all for that, but making it worse just to sort of do a theatrical thing where you're pretending, like, I don't...
Yeah, it's what we call that performative. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff we do even in government that is performative, and and so I'm not about that.
And that's, I guess that's just the nature of government. Like, there's so many things that can't actually be fixed just because you can't get enough people on board or they don't quite understand the issue.
I think to me it's an issue of actually, number one, education, right? And real leadership, right? Like, back in the day, our leaders, I don't know, we had better leaders that weren't just like trying to cling at all costs to power, right, in government. And so, if it doesn't test well in their focus groups, it's become like a marketing sort of technique. What we really need is leaders with a bold vision to chart a course that will say, you know what? Hey, Canadians, I know you're afraid about this thing, but here's the information. Let me tell you why this is good for us. And they get people behind it. That's what good leaders do. Hopefully. They say, you know what? This is the state of things, right? They see it as they are, as it is, not worse, not better. And they chart a bold vision forward for Canada. And then Canadians get on board and they're like, okay, right. And they have to, and it's about education, right? And communicating with Canadians about the realities, right?
It's tough because once you present something that some people don't like, the other side's immediately going to attack you. Like, for example, Trump with his tariffs, nobody likes his tariffs. But for 40 years, he's been saying, I think we're being screwed. The U.S., the China's cheating us, never. So he comes in, and, this is going to hurt for a little bit, but it's to a greater good. And same thing with, like, Social Security down there. Like, it's bankrupt in the country, but nobody wants to touch it because everybody has been paying in, they want their money. So it's very difficult to sort of present something that might have some... everybody in real life, like in actual life, doesn't like... Like, that's why it's hard to exercise. It hurts right now. I'll be thin in a year, but it's hard to sort of do the thing that is good for you, but to suffer through, especially in government. Nobody wants to suffer at all. But, we keep chugging along and society's advancing. And I think...
anyways, arguably, though, we need a little more evidence, right? And intelligent thinking around
facts,
that.
Yeah. And then also teaching kids to be critical thinkers and...
Absolutely.
All of that. I took a psychology class called the Psychology of Anomalous Experience. Like, why do people believe in things that aren't real and stuff? And so understanding psychology, that's... say, why do you believe in horoscopes or ghosts or UFOs? Like, what are the things? It's the way the mind. Once you understand the way the mind works, like, that's why I thought this was that. But it's so even memory, like it's a lot of this comes out of psychology. So that's all interesting. So maybe I could be the resident psychological expert of the Canadian Future Party because I have a BA in psychology.
Okay.
And what do you guys think about? This is my own thing, like personal responsibility. Because a lot of what I try to tell people and what I hear life coaches saying, the government can do so much, but you can't really control who it's going to be. And whoever the president or the prime minister or whatever is, it's not really going to change your life that much. Like, you need to be responsible for your own house, your own money, your own family. Like, whatever the government does with healthcare. Like, if you can make money yourself and whatever and be covered, like that's a better insurance plan than trying to demand the government give you more money for dental care, whatever it is, right? So like,
yeah.
I don't know. I guess the party wouldn't have a perspective on that, but
So I mean, I guess as a parent, like my main sort of goal was to, make sure that my kids ended up being, independent, contributing members of society. That was always my goal, and ideally better educated than I am, and better in all ways.
yeah. They've been walking around the house in their pajamas on this. I just noticed that.
Okay, they're
I guess
still
they're too
young.
They're too young to do it at bars. What are they going to do on a Saturday night?
Exactly.
Yeah,
there you go.
In fact, this is better. They're not out like doing vandalism or whatever.
It's true.
Whatever the kids today do.
Yeah.
So good for them.
Okay, so on the topic of personal responsibility, I guess that's another sort of, left versus right sort of thing that comes up, right? Where the conservatives are like, forget it, we're going to cut all these programs. Like, you don't need us to hold your hand. You can, if you want to make something of yourself, do it yourself.
Yeah, and giving you welfare is making you dependent on the government, which the government wants. And it's, yeah.
And then the left side is like, don't worry, we got you. We'll take care of you, with all these programs that will support you.
There's all your COVID money. There you go.
Yeah. So again, in the center, what we're talking about is balancing those two things, and it's really partly, in my opinion, getting a good understanding of what the actual problem is. So let me give you a kind of a classic example here. All right, taxes and finance in general. All right, so if you come from an economically disadvantaged, like a disadvantaged family, so generational poverty, all right? So, maybe your parents, bought their house, but, and that's about it, right? Like, they've got their house, and that's it. And that's very typical of Canadians.
Yeah, they've been spending with their paycheck or whatever, but their main investment is the money they've been putting into their mortgage, and then they retire and say, okay, we got our $1 million house anyways. But,
exactly. So the main barrier to that is actually financial literacy, right? So as a society, how do we ensure that those who are at an economic disadvantage, who don't get that financial literacy kind of by osmosis or trained, like it's mostly by your parents, right? You learn your financial behaviors from your parents.
And mine knew nothing about buying stocks. Or when I was
12, exactly, investing,
I had some money.
The magic of compound interest.
And they didn't know how to invest, and I called every stockbroker on the phone, like, can I invest? And they didn't. They're like, oh, you got to be 18. And I'm like, finally, one guy was like, oh, if your parents co-sign, you can do it. I'm like, oh, thank goodness. But but other kids might grow up in a family of investment brokers or whatever. I mean, that's the thing. Like, if you invest young, like if you take your bar mitzvah money or your birthday money when you're 12 and invest it, it'll grow, and that'll be. I mean, because really, what pensions or whatever that is the government taking your money and saying, we're going to invest it for you. And, and some people might say, I'd rather invest in myself. So if I knew how to buy stocks, I'll have my own little pension fund or whatever.
Sure.
But lately I've been listening to Dave Ramsey show. I'm like, wow, just the way they talk about getting out of debt and not getting into debt, and the power of compound interest and all of this.
Yeah. So there's more than one way to solve that. I know there's I know there's some sort of for-profit organizations that teach financial literacy. There's not-for-profit organizations that teach financial literacy, and I was pleasantly surprised when some of my kids who are in high school were bringing their math homework, and they're teaching financial literacy skills finally in the schools as part of the math curriculum, right? So there's teaching the theory, and then there's practicing it. There's understanding that financial habits like saving are built over time. It's a muscle that you have to actively, just like working out, right? Exercise, you have to exercise that.
I feel attacked. But for those of you who are wondering, I feel very uncomfortable right now with my stomach, because I ate before I came here. I'm shoveling in 3 pieces of peanut butter and jam. I ate too much. And then you had delicious pumpkin ginger soup and some, was that garlic bread with cheese?
It was just cheese. It was just like cheese bread.
Just cheese bread. It was so good. So I had to eat it, but I'm like, oh, that was just a little too much. And I'm like, oh. So I wish the government would teach me about, working out or fitness. They don't teach you anything about that. And even things like just when to start a family and stuff. I mean, I guess that's not the government's role. I don't know.
Sure.
I feel like there should be more of that in school.
Well, I think there's an abundance of information out there, and I think it's about sharing is caring. Maybe you could do a YouTube channel on
Yeah.
some of that.
I think I should. Like, there's one guy that apparently, I don't know, keep seeing him on Instagram. Like, this man didn't have a father, and so now he's doing YouTube for kids who don't have a father. Like, how to tie a tie and stuff. And I'm like,
Yeah.
but how did this guy learn how to tie a tie if he didn't have a father? But anyways, I would love to give advice and in a humorous way, and maybe you can be one of my co-hosts. You can
There
come
you
in
go.
and talk about data freedom or whatever it is. I don't know what you're an expert in.
Yeah. So just to get wrap that up,
Yeah.
because we went on a couple of tangents.
Sorry
there.
about that.
It really, again, this is about picking problems to solve that makes sense for us to solve at the federal level. We
Right.
can't solve them all,
Mm-hmm.
and it's finding the most efficient path. So learning everything we can about the problem. Number one,
Yeah.
what evidence do we have? Using the scientific method in terms of what are all the ideas we have on the table for solving this problem,
Mm-hmm.
and then narrowing them down and using the expertise that we have and possibly including some people who experience the problem at the table as well when we're solving this problem. So we have new techniques that I don't see being used in policy making right now. So you talked about psychology. There's a whole branch of science called the cognitive sciences now that have new techniques to human behavior, but there's new ways to design sort of policies and programs to maximize their effectiveness. There's service design thinking has specific methodologies that we could be tapping into that, again, I just don't see them in these backdoor policy rooms, and I don't see them being used in the House. So
Do you think that's just because I don't know, maybe there's no incentive for the government to get more efficient? Like, everybody's sort of just doing their job, and how does it, other than the moral good, like, I would think, like, in for-profit companies, they have an incentive to make things more efficient because then they make more money.
Yeah, that's a good question, but that's, again, like, what when we're talking about the people in the House, so the people we elect.
We're not talking about this House, we're talking about the House
of Commons.
Yes,
Yeah, sure, and the party that's in power, and then all the other MPs that have a role to play as well, even if they're not in government. Their role is really to lead these 200 plus organizations, and we're talking about a public service that is anyways, it was up to 400,000. I think we're down to 380,000 now after this round of cuts. But that's what we're talking about. We're talking about leading these organizations, like a multitude of organizations. And so it to me, efficiency always has to be part of the equation when you're talking about leading an organization to do a thing, right?
Yeah.
Are you organized? Are you designed to accomplish the thing that we're asking you to accomplish?
Yeah.
And so that's really, and maybe we should wrap this up here.
Yeah.
We're getting late. But the main sort of reason I'm running is
We should be more efficient here. Yes.
we need better leadership for our leaders in government, right? So the people you're electing in the House of Commons end up being the leaders for the leaders of these departments. And so what I've noticed is that there's this layer in between that is maybe not functioning as well. So that's why I'm skipping over a couple levels, and I'm saying, you know what, I feel like I have the experience and I know some things, and I'd love to try those things and teach my other colleagues in the House, giving them a bit of a reality check about what it actually takes to deliver on some of these promises at the point in time when they're drafting the legislation, or they're thinking about the idea or trying to solve a particular problem, and to bring that lens at the start. Because if we do, I think we could make some smarter decisions that, number one, would be easier to administer, potentially, possibly cost less to administer, right? And just overall have better outcomes for Canadians.
And do you think your party and you in particular as well, would almost be effective as a consulting or a wing of the government, come in and help various MPs, rather than being MPs yourself? It sounds like you could help everyone. You should sort of be, every MP should have one of you saying, here's
Yeah.
how we to implement what you do.
Yeah. So I'll be real honest with you right now. I've got a lot of theories about what I could potentially do to influence, with this lens in the House of Commons. But until I get there, I won't know. But I'm asking people to give me a chance. Like, let's do our own experiment here in Ottawa Centre, right?
I like it.
What could a public servant who brings that experience, especially in the realm of kind of the digital age, and that's what we're talking about today, to the House, and then I'll need to learn the ropes. Like, I don't know all of the ins and outs of the House. I know some. I understand a lot of the financial frameworks, the machinery of government. But when it comes to actually what I'll be able to do in the House, that I don't know. But I would love to find out, and I'd love to serve you as your member of Parliament, Ottawa Centre. Give me a chance. We can do this.
There you go.
Yeah.
So you want more of this in the House. Let's do
go.
it. And that sounds very exciting. All right. Well, I look forward to seeing how it goes in 2 days. And all right. Well, thanks for coming on again. I'm sorry I don't have a barbershop for you. But,
he was even getting a trim while he was interviewing me. Like, I was like,
somebody was cutting his hair.
I was like, how did you even do that?
Wow, I feel like he just brought you in there. He's like, I got a haircut. Like, he can get a free haircut out of this. I'll interview this woman or whatever he's doing. Yeah. Well, I'm going to start pedicure chats or whatever. That's what
weird.
I want.
That's weird.
Manicure. Really?
I'm sure there's an audience out there that would love that. But
well, they don't have to watch. It'll be out of camera, and I'll just be getting a foot massage.
Okay. So,
or the little fish that eat your toes in the airport.
It was in camera. The clip.
You could see the hair
clipping.
clipping, right?
So that's why
the whole point is you got to see what's going on.
I made the connection. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Nobody wants to see my feet. You're welcome.
Thanks for coming back and answering those policy questions.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
and leave comments below if you have any more questions, and maybe we'll get her for another interview before the election.
There you go.
Okay, bye.
Bye.